would like to draw attention to one thing in the consent agenda before we move it. So on page 5 of the agenda packet, in response to the boards and specifically Director Urop comments, staff put together an AR summary. So that calls out the different delinquencies and whether or not they're in litigation or if they're on payment plans. So hopefully that helps in the future as we're looking through as the aging report and the delinquencies.
That was very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's all I have. Everything, the bills are very standard.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I move.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any public comment? Hearing no public comment, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. Number 7 is the advisory committee report. Advisory committee chair Lamoureux.
Good morning, Dennis Lamoureux with the advisory committee. And the memo does a good job of saying what we did. You just had to switch it up a little bit.
I know, I know, because somebody's,
Couldn't be the same 6 words.
yeah, because someone else used it, because they said,
I do get.
I'm gonna say like Dennis says and said his statement, so he's changing it up a little bit.
Good man.
There's one item that there was a split vote on, and that was for the new production application with 5.5 acre foot. Largely because it included permanent crops that were gonna be used, that water was gonna be used for. So there's some concern on the committee about that. Any questions?
Any questions?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, then we'll go to number 8, which is review a proposed 2026 administrative assessment rate and draft 2026 administrative budget. And I'll let you, the administrator, do that.
All right, thank you very much. So on page 29, you'll find the memorandum discussing the draft budget as well as the administrative rate that staff is recommending holding at $9.50. So the highlights here is the estimated total revenue for 2026 with the proposed budget would be a little over $1 million. And then the estimated expenses would be just under $800,000. So the estimated increase to the stabilization fund in 2026 is $225,676 with the proposed budget. And you can see the budget in detail on page 30, and we're happy to answer any questions you might have about this budget that's being proposed. There's no substantial changes versus the 2025 budget in terms of the individual items, but we're happy to take your questions.
Any questions? All right. So no questions and no action needed.
We just need a vote to move the draft budget forward to the December meeting for final approval.
B is yes. Do I have a motion to pass the draft 2026 administrative budget?
I move.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do we have any public comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. All right, for item number 9, Brandon is going to recuse himself, and we have Angelica online who will be doing number 9.
And Chair McLaren, I do want to fully recognize that I do remember the memo that was written from Mr. Parton in the regards to me not recusing myself, but I do think in abundance of caution and precedent that I should do this since it is an immediate family member of mine.
Okay. All right, we'll see you in a few. All right, so this is consideration and possible action on transfer application. R2556 Tivoli Investments LLC to City of Lancaster, 500 acre feet permanent. And our engineer will be briefing us on that.
Thank you. This is Arden. So this transfer is for 500 acre feet per year of permanent production from Tivoli Investments, which is an Exhibit 4 party. Currently, their water is listed as for investment purposes, but originally this production right was transferred to them from Caruso Investments in the Central Antelope sub-area. And the transferee is City of Lancaster, which has both an Exhibit 4 production right and a right to produce. And those are listed in the application letter. And so at this time, it is for investment purposes and there's no point of extraction, so we could not conduct a material injury analysis. Are there any questions?
No questions? Okay. Do I have a motion for resolution R2556?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that one.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any public comments? Hearing no public comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, excuse me, Boyd's roll call.
Sorry about that, just one moment. Okay, Director Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Martin,
Yes.
Director Urosic,
Yes.
Director Miller,
Yes.
Director McLaren.
Yes, that motion passes. Brandon, you may come rejoin us. All right, we're going to number 10, which is consideration and possible action on new production applications. And this will also be our engineer.
Thank you. So the first application is for Jose Mejia, and this is a new production application for 0.25 acre feet per year. And this is for a single family home that has no landscaping. And this was unanimously recommended for approval by the advisory committee. And I'll also note this is in the Southeast Antelope sub-area. Are there any questions about this application?
Any questions? No questions. All right. Do I hear a motion for R25-57?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any public comments? Hearing no public comments, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. That motion passes. And we'll let you go on to BR25-58.
Thank you. So this application is for Pogos Samitian, and this is for 5.5 acre feet per year. And he lists it as for a single family home that includes landscaping and about 100 pistachio trees. And in the calculations for the volume of water, the contracted engineering firm used to calculate the water demand for pistachio trees, the calculations per tree, and we also double checked this, confirming that 100 pistachio trees is a little bit less than 1 acre of pistachio trees. And the estimates on both methods matched. And so this is in the Central Antelope sub-area, and we included in the application hydrographs of surrounding water levels, which show that water levels have been stable since the adjudication. And so we found a very low risk of material injury given the small amount and the obligation to pay replacement water assessments. But as noted in the advisory committee meeting, members did have concerns that this water would largely go to permanent agriculture, being the pistachio trees that need water year after year in order to survive, and the use and ability to pay the RWA replacement water assessment is dependent on the availability of the replacement water. So their vote were 9 members recommending approval of this application, 2 voting no, and 2 abstentions. Do y'all have any questions for me on this application?
Any questions?
Arden, this is Brandon. I'm pretty familiar with this area out there. Did you guys happen to check the USGS wells that are located in close proximity to this area to confirm that there was no decline in water levels?
Yes, Director Calandry. On page 70 of the application, we showed the data from the nearby USGS wells. And you can see that prior to the adjudication, water levels were decreasing. But for ones with recent levels, we see that since about 2015, the water levels have leveled out and been stable.
And that's probably due to a large part of the reduction of agriculture in that area. The other thing that I did have a question on this, is it clearly stated, and this may be a legal question as much as anything, is it clearly stated in the application that this is an interruptible source of water? Because RWAs are not a guaranteed source of water.
I do not. I'm reviewing the application right now, and I don't see that it explicitly states that it is an interruptible source of water.
You said you do not see where it states that.
Correct. Yeah, that's not in the letter.
So I guess my question is for legal a little bit is when you have a situation like this, Cameron, we're giving somebody documentation showing that they have that water. And if it's not clearly stated on there that that's an interruptible source, an argument could be created that they are under the impression that they are going to have water no matter what, or the ability to acquire RWAs no matter what. And that's just not the case. So should we be taking any steps in these applications to make sure it's clearly defined that this is an interruptible source of water when it comes to RWAs?
Thank you, Director Calandry. That's a good question. And if I recall, a similar question has been raised in the past. And I don't have in front of me where we landed on that and would like to look into it a little bit, and we can bring it back to the board for consideration at the next meeting. But that is a good question.
Yeah, because while I understand that we have no grounds for denial whatsoever, in my opinion, from what I'm seeing, but I'm just thinking down the road. What if something happens? What if there is an issue? What if the RWAs aren't available? And it would get really interesting really quick, especially in a high dollar crop like pistachios.
Just to add there, I looked over to staff to confirm, but I thought we had this conversation in the past and we added it to the application. So I hope we did.
I agree with you that we had the
Yeah.
conversation. I just didn't remember what came of it. That's why I wanted to ask.
Okay.
I do seem to recall that we added it to the application, and I can check while we're working through this. But this is a question that has been raised before, and we worked with staff, if I recall, to address it. But I will
Because
check.
it's just, it goes all the way through. Like when you go to the county to drill a well, you know, if there's no water available, you got to show where that permanent source is coming from. And we're kind of representing to the people that they have a permanent source of water, as well as the county for permitting purposes and everybody else.
So I think if we look at item 10 and 11 on the application, so this would be on page 71 and 72. Is that what we added previously?
To be honest with you, I don't remember if that was what we added to.
So number 11 says written confirmation that the applicant agrees to pay the applicable replacement water assessment for any new production. But the number 10 also talks about material injury and the lowering of groundwater levels, et cetera. Anyway, I'll leave it at that, but might have been where we created some clarification.
We will take a look at that and bring it back to you for feedback at the December meeting. Thank you for raising that.
Just a discussion point.
Kathy, may I add a comment as well?
Okay.
Yeah, so, you know, I have brought this up in past meetings and I heard it as a good conversation at the advisory meeting is there's significant carryover, that existing exhibit 3 and 4 holders have. And, as well as permanent rights that I think are in the market for potential buyers. You know, and we go back to the conversation that we had about, you know, if we drew on all that, that we would not be sustainable. I'm nervous still, and I know this is replacement water. I know this is by agencies that can bring in water and store it, but, you know, we should be going to what we have available here in the basin first. And I'd like to agendize that. So nothing as much to this item as much as putting it on for the next board meeting is really have a board conversation about that, because I think, you know, we're going after potential water and we're putting exposure out there for replacement water that may or may not be available in the future, versus, you know, trying to allow these people to have an opportunity to either buy temporary water or even, you know, permanent water through a transaction.
Director Urasek, thank you for bringing that up. And I will bring this up in our general counsel report related to the template carryover storage agreement, which relates to the issue that you're raising. Thank you.
So sorry, I was interested in what is the agenda item proposed? Remember you're asking? Yeah.
It was really to have a board conversation about evaluating and modifying, you know, kind of the priority of how new water is given and,
Okay.
and the opportunity to first look at what's existing either through carryover or through, you know, a transaction versus going to the, you know, the surface water replacement water process.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so for this R2558, we're tabling it?
No,
I
I
don't-
don't think we have a basis to the table from what I've been told, so I think, we have to go, they have the right according to the
Okay,
judgment.
so we are doing it and not like,
Move to approve.
okay,
I'll second.
all right. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying, do we have any public comment? No. Okay. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. So that is just something that he's gonna look into. All right. Number 11, consideration of possible action on new point of extraction. That is also the art and show, as Rob would say.
Thank you. So this application is for a new well to be drilled by Quartz Hill Water District, in the Central Antelope sub-area. And it's noted in the application, they would first drill a test well where they're testing the water quality and productivity at different depths of the aquifer. And then if everything looks good for that, then they would move forward with drilling out that borehole for this new point of extraction, this new production well. And so we provided a pretty thorough analysis to understand if increasing production in this area by the estimated 220 acre feet per year of production that Quartz Hill estimated for this well would cause material injury. And so the first thing that we looked at is, well, what has Quartz Hill been producing in the past and what are their production rights? And we note that they have production rights each year, but also receive a sizable amount of their production from imported water return flows and their unused federal reserved rights, which they receive as an Exhibit 3 party. And in the past several years, in the Central Antelope sub-area, from their 10 wells, they've produced about 1,800 acre feet per year. And they have the rights to produce that and have about 6,000 acre feet of carryover from using less than their production rights. We also note that almost all of the wells within a 1 mile radius of the proposed well are owned by Quartz Hill. And so direct impacts from drawdown would really primarily impact Quartz Hill's own wells. There is a slight cone of depression that surrounds both Quartz Hill and Palm Ridge Irrigation District's wells. But water levels in the slight depression and surrounding it have remained stable over recent years. We do note in the production wells, there are some fluctuations seasonally, just from seasonal pumping, which is expected. This is not in an area with historical subsidence, and it's not overlying a thick clay layer where geologically the land would be more susceptible to subsidence with increased production and decreased water levels. So in summary, Quartz Hill would be extracting water from their current rights within the judgment, which is incorporated into the safe yield requirements of the judgment. And it's unlikely to cause drawdown in wells that are not owned by the applicant and unlikely to cause subsidence. So given all of this, we determined that the potential for material injury is low. And the advisory committee had 12 votes to recommend this well for approval and 1 abstention. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Hearing no questions, do I have a motion for R-2559?
I move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any public comments? There are no public comments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
That motion passes. All right, now we will go on to consideration of possible action on replacement well application. That will be our administrative staff.
Thank you, Kathy. This month we have 1 replacement well application, starts on page 109 of your agenda packet. The applicant is Maria Buenrostro. She's a known small pumper to the judgment, and she's requesting a replacement well because the casing of the existing well has collapsed and cannot be repaired. The new well will be drilled within approximately 112 feet from the existing well, and the applicant plans to decommission the existing well once the new well is constructed. The advisory committee and staff recommend approval of this application, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
You said 112 feet. I thought I had 300 foot from the existing road.
No, so a replacement well application, it needs to be within 300 feet of the existing well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, can I have the motion for R-2560?
Move to approve.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Do I hear any public comments? Hearing no public comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. That motion passes. All right, thank you. Now we will go to our administrator's report.
Thank you, Chair McLaren. And can we move on to the next slide? Okay, so it's our overview of things that we've completed and things that are coming up. We have we did get through our sub-area management advisory committee meeting, and I think Arden's can present on that. Then we have our proposed administrative assessment rates and budget. We've moved on to the December meeting. And my understanding is that we've arrived at December 17th as the date for the special meeting in December. Looking to Angel to confirm that. Yeah. Thank you. So just a reminder, in November, there will be no meeting. So we have this nice big gap between now and then December 17th. Staff and the engineer are going to be reviewing the fee schedule for possible changes and to set a public hearing. We will, at that December meeting, we will be looking at replacement water rates. So we anticipate having those calculated and available at that meeting. We'll have that final assessment rate and budget for approval. Then in January, we're gonna hit the ground running, sending out those fixed invoices, mailing out production reports, and have that public hearing to consider the 2025 fee schedule. And then we're also anticipating having the presentation on the investment options at that January meeting. So that's what's coming up. I'd also like to draw your attention to the table over there. We have Kyle Wright with us. Kyle. Morning. So Kyle, we're trying to deepen our bench a little bit on the administrative staff. And so he's getting some experience with Patty and Angel right now. So we'll have another sharp mind to help us with administrative tasks. So please feel free to say hi to Kyle. You'll be seeing him around. And that concludes my administrative report.
All right, thank you. Now we will go to the Watermaster Engineers report.
Thank you. And I'm going to share my screen. So I'm sending a request for that. And so I think I need approval on the host's end because it says that, okay, multiple.
Yeah, I got it, Arden.
Perfect, thank you. So I am going to. Okay, can y'all see the full page slides?
Yes.
All right. So the first item for the Watermaster Engineer update is our summary of new production and qualified small pumpers. So we noticed there was a pretty big increase of 94.8 acre feet per year listed as approved new production last meeting. Actually 93 acre feet from this are temporary. So there was an application for Magnolia LP that was approved to use 93 acre feet over 2 years. And so we just sort of logged that temporary production in the year that it was approved. And then once the period where that production will occur has passed, then we remove it from our overall count of new production. We also had a small pumper application approved last month. So for each small pumper, 3 acre feet per year are added to the total production for small pumpers. Do y'all have any questions about these?
Any questions? No.
Great. Hearing none, I'm going to move on to our summary of the biannual sub-area management meeting. So we had the sub-area committee meeting during the advisory committee last week. This was about a 45-minute discussion, and I want to be mindful of time, so I prepared a brief summary of what we discussed during this meeting. But I want to note that all of the slides that we presented are in the packet, and I do want to invite any board members or members of the public who couldn't make it to that to ask any specific questions that they have about those or about my summary. So 2 main topics were discussed in this. We have the transfers across sub-areas since the last sub-area committee meeting. So the tables that are shown are all of the cumulative transfers to and from each sub-area since the adjudication began, and we provide some updates on recent ones. And then there was also a discussion of sub-area specific water balance results from the model in the annual report. And so we didn't present any new information in this. because these tables and figures were included in the annual report. But this provided a much needed time to really dig into some of the details with those and have a discussion about what the model water balance can tell us and how that might differ from the accounting in the judgment. So a brief summary of the transfers by sub-area. The main transfer that really crossed sub-area classifications was a transfer from AVEC to LA County Waterworks District 40 of about 2,700 acre feet. And this was a one-time transfer, and we listed AVEC as a party with wells in multiple sub-areas. And this was listed as for investment purposes. It came up a question about tracking our water for investment purposes, particularly for parties where even though a point of extraction was not identified for that exact transfer, the sub-area where the point of extraction might be can be reasonably assumed. And we did note that we don't make those assumptions in the tables where we're tracking the water. If it is for investment purposes in the application, we do list it as for investment purposes. However, we want to make sure that, especially moving forward, we're mindful to make sure that we are classifying that transfer by a specific sub-area once a point of extraction is approved. I'll also note that in the past few months, there have been 528 acre feet of one-time transfers from other sub-areas into the southeast sub-area, specifically for paying replacement water assessments. And then all other temporary or permanent transfers remains within the same sub-area. So for the water balance by sub-area summary, we reviewed the water balance by sub-area that is in the annual report. And these walk through the inflows and outflows in each sub-area from 2016 through 2024. So this includes sources of recharge or water flowing into the sub-area from other sub-areas, and also sources of discharge, primarily pumping as the main source of water leaving each sub-area, but also keeping track of the water that's flowing from one sub-area into an adjacent sub-area. Some of the questions that came up really highlighted the differences between the water balance from the model and the water accounting under the judgment. Specifically, in the model, recharge is estimated based off of urban and agricultural return flows. But this does not distinguish between recharge that might be coming from imported water versus groundwater use. So while we track under the judgment imported water return flow credits, this is tracked separately than the model's calculations. We're using the values that were determined in the judgment to assign imported water return flows, while the model is focusing on volumes of return flows from agriculture and urban use. And there is a lag time in that. Other questions that arose was a discussion about the southern boundary between the southeast and the central sub-area. We do see flow across that southern portion of this boundary from the southeast sub-area into the central antelope sub-area. In particular, we're seeing a response to recharge at Little Rock Creek. And there appears to be some sort of barrier that occurs in the central antelope sub-area between the southern portion of the same sub-area into more northern parts of the sub-area. We also discussed that it's likely that over time, the calculations of agricultural and urban return flows will change, and that's due to land use changes. So the last summary slide for the meeting is just a few takeaways that we wanted to highlight in our presentation. The first are that the sub-areas are hydrogeologically connected and water is flowing into the central antelope sub-area on all sides. We see that sub-areas that get a lot of natural recharge and imported water use show big changes between wet and dry years. So specifically, the Central Antelope sub-area and the Southeast Antelope sub-area get a lot of natural recharge, and a lot of the parties depend on imported water. And so we see fluctuations in whether there's a net increase or decrease in water. Is there a question?
Any questions?
I have a question.
Oh, yes.
So Arden, I really appreciate you trying to synthesize for us and giving us this presentation with this summary. I think what I'd like to hear from you is just some confirmation, but maybe if I ask the question a certain way. The overall, can you share with us the overall trends and of the subbasins and the health of the basin as a whole? I think this is something obviously that we would like to discuss next meeting, and I want to hear from the engineer as to in looking at the sub areas and the discussion that you had, what are the trends and what do you view as the overall health of the basin?
Thank you. Do you want me to dive into the tables with the trends now, or save that for another meeting?
I don't think you need to go into detail. We can discuss it more in detail if there's other questions from other board members next time. But I'd like you to just generalize what your feeling is in terms of the overall health. So, for example, based on what you've told us, it sounds like there is connectivity and there has been improvement in the basin. Is that? But I don't want to characterize it for you. I'd like you to characterize it for us.
Yeah, thank you. So overall, we see water levels have in many areas gone from decreasing to being stable. And we see overall in the health of the basin, there has been a positive net change in storage. When we break it down by sub areas, we do see that it's not a completely even change in overall change in storage. Most of the positive change in storage is occurring in the West Antelope sub-area because of water banking. However, the sub-areas that have negative changes in storage since the adjudication are not having large negative changes in storage. And it's important to note that this includes the ramp down area where it was fully anticipated that there would be more production than recharge entering the basin. So with the current health of the basin, water levels are stable, subsidence has decreased, and when we look at the water balances, overall there has been a net increase. There is the caveat that net increase is largely due to imported stored water, and that's important to keep our eye on in the future. But overall, basin conditions look good.
Thank you, Arden.
Can I add a question to that or a comment
Yes.
as well? Yeah, so maybe I've heard you say this before, right? But that doesn't take into account carryover or potential storage water, right?
Yes, that is correct.
So if you extrapolate what you know as the carryover and storage water, what's your opinion?
My opinion is that there is the potential for issues with declining water levels and subsidence if the future carryover water and stored water are not used carefully. And it's important to pay attention to where changes in production and responses to water levels are occurring. While there is connection between the different sub areas, there are areas where we do see big increases in water levels. And so increased pumping in those areas would not lead to net decreases in water levels. So while there is connection and the water will move around, it's important to pay attention to the use over time and increase our understanding of the total recharge coming into the basin.
and may be helpful, and I know you annotated on these sub areas, but maybe I forgot to hear if the Standing Advisory Committee brought this up, but is having, when you have these net changes in storage or some calculation that includes what carryover is, because I think that's a true number of kind of where your balance is or where your storage is. And it may be in there and I'm just not seeing it in the right way.
Yes, I think it is important to look at that net change in storage within the context of the obligated carryover and imported stored water. And this is information that we have presented before, but I think it is not in this presentation, and I think it is important to continue to bring up. So I'm happy to provide, an additional summary of sub-area conditions, also alongside this basin-wide comparison between the carryover and stored water available for use with this net change in storage over time.
I just think it's important to all water right holders that have that, believe 100% that is their right to extract when or to transact when they see fit. That, your concerns don't stop that from any type of process. So I think we need to daylight that as much as possible.
Thank you, and I agree.
Any other questions? Okay. Is that it for you, Morgan? You touched on all.
There are two more items that we want to provide in the engineering update. This is it for this water balance by sub-area summary. But we have next a drainage review, and then we're going to give an update on the metering and reporting app.
Okay.
Thank you. So we were asked a couple months ago to comply with paragraph 18 of the judgment to take a look at proposed drainage projects and identify any that may have an impact to recharge that into the basin that would impact the native safe yield. And so we received documents from Palmdale and LA County related to their stormwater planning and took a review of them. I think the most helpful document that we received is this Antelope Valley Integrated Regional Water Management Plan. And this is exactly what we were hoping to get to review. It includes, so this was published in 2019, and it includes 11 stormwater projects, and 9 of them specifically focused on increasing and aiding stormwater recharge. So these projects do not in any way reduce the amount of recharge coming into the basin and may even help aid it. To dive a little bit into the 2 projects that were listed as more capturing stormwater instead of and using it instead of increasing recharge. We reviewed them, talked with council and admin, and did not find that they diminished the contribution to the native safe yield. So the first one was listed as the Leona Valley Stormwater Harvesting Project. And this is outside of the adjudicated area, which council advised is outside of the scope of the review of the Watermaster engineer. I will note that this was only for 25 acre feet per year of estimated stormwater capture. And so this project would not be of concern for the native safe yield. The other one is the Little Rock Dam Sediment Removal Project, which has been ongoing. And we did not find that it appears to be a stormwater contribution to the native safe yield. Specifically, this is focused on restoring the capacity of the dam to its previous storage capacity. And this is actually returning it to the conditions that were used to determine what the native safe yield is in the adjudication expert report. And so this is probably more likely to be helping the recharge align better with the native safe yield defined in the judgment. And then we spoke with the Watermaster admin, and they are going to help make sure that we can review a draft version of the Integrated Regional Water Management Plan, Stormwater Resource Plan, which will likely be available next year. So do y'all have any questions about our drainage review?
Yeah, did you guys provide this to the advisory committee?
Well, we did not. Yeah.
It would be nice to give them the opportunity to review this stuff as well.
Okay. Yeah, I can make sure that these slides are in the next AC packet.
Any other questions on the drainage review?
No, I
No.
think it's great we're looking at it.
Yep. All right. We'll let you go on to D then.
Thank you. So I'm really excited to share this update about where we are with the metering and reporting app. And I'm also noting that it's not just an app for your phone, but also will be available to use by a tablet or have a desktop website. And so I'll give a little overview about what we've been working on, and then on my computer sort of show a live version of what the website looks like right now and where we're at. So I'll note that we, when developing a tool, we have both the front end, which is what the users are seeing, and then the back end, which is the data flow that goes into making sure that all of the different pieces connect. And this is through the program Google App Sheets, which makes it really easy to sort of have everything set up on the user side. But where most of the muscle has been is making sure that everything on the back end is running clearly. So this is making sure that when landowners put in their totalizer readings, then that everything is linked to not only the party and the well, but making sure that we've got the email and account name of the user, that only they have access to the information, that we have up-to-date information about the meters and about the ways to quickly calculate the production from the changing totalizer readings for each meter. And we're linking the photos that are submitted to each meter reading and party. So we have our backend database set up where once data is submitted, it is able to convert the totalizer readings to acre feet, calculate the year-to-date production and show that to the user, and then also store the previous year's total production so they can refer to that and see it. And so for data input, each party is given a drop-down list of just their wells, or they can flip through information about their wells. This also shows the location and their past readings. And so they input the totalizer readings directly from the meter, and then they can view and edit what they've submitted in the past. And we've been doing, so now that we have this the framework developed, we've been doing some internal testing that involves data entry from submitted meter reports. And so our next steps where we are right now and are planning to complete by the end of the year, recognizing that our budget for this is just for this year to get the original initial development rolling. We're writing user instructors. We're planning to work with Watermaster admin to begin a trial with a small number of parties to first test this out in the field and give us their feedback so we can make sure this is as user-friendly as possible. And then also we're focused on fine-tuning the onboarding process to make sure that each user, well, and meter information are accurate. And we know that parties have been submitting this information repeatedly, but a lot of it might change over time or has not yet fully been digitized. And we want to make sure that each party has the opportunity to confirm that their information about their wells and the locations are correct, and so that everything can run as easily as possible. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen and, oops, actually, I'm gonna keep sharing my screen. Sorry about that confusion. I'm gonna close PowerPoint and pull up the website. So can y'all see the website?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So this is the page where you can view well details. You can flip between wells, and I just have on my email account, I linked it to a party's wells just to sort of put in some of the totalizer readings that they have submitted. And so you're able to view past readings, the location. If you want to add a reading for the well, I can put in the time, choose which well I want to add info for. I can input the totalizer reading, and if I got a new meter, I can add that information, and then I can just input a photo and it'll upload.
And who's gonna be inputting all this?
The parties will input it for themselves. And then I can review past totalizer readings and check the reports for them. If the meter changes, then this also will automatically update to continue to add the production from the new meter to the year total without having a huge gap and rollover accounted for it if there is a noted change. You can view the locations of the wells and also pull up the information that way. View the year-to-date production totals. And then when it's time for the annual support report, be able to confirm that this calculated value above is accurate for the annual production. Or, for example, the totalizer readings are not equaling the total production for this because the meter was changed, but it wasn't noted. And so in this situation, you might say, no, this value above isn't accurate, but this value that I'm inputting is accurate for the annual report, and add the reason for the meter change, and then submit it. So this would be instead of submitting the production reports via PDF and email. So I'll take opportunities for questions.
Well, this is Brandon. Well, I can appreciate the technology and this looks great. It's fantastic, but I have concerns about a lot of our people being able to get this done accurately and some of the controls that we have. Angel or Patty, would you guys have any concerns with this being implemented with a lot of our people that are reporting to us?
It's optional, number one.
Oh, it is optional.
It's optional.
Okay, I didn't catch that part.
Yeah. And so the people that would like to use it and are able to use it, it would be beneficial on the back end for engineering and for Angel and Kyle for all that paperwork coming in. So that's one benefit.
Because I think we can agree we'll have some people that just aren't gonna get this done.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
they still have.
But I think
to
it,
do
because it's
paper.
optional, I think, I did have a question though. Arden, would our Exhibit 3 people be also be using this app?
Yes. So Exhibit 3 people, new producers can use it. Hopefully that will help increase the compliance for new production. Any party that has a well that requires metering and reporting is able to use this.
I think it's gonna be very beneficial for our new producers. I think if we, and once their application is approved, get them signed on, get them to start using it right off the bat. It saves Angel hours of work.
I can see the efficiencies hands down. This is great. It's just, I'll pick on my dad for a second since he's a water rights holder. The man's never sent an email, through his fax machine off his desk 5 years ago and still doesn't have voicemail. So there's people out there that just aren't gonna get this done, so it's
Thank
nice
goodness
to know
for
that.
Connie, huh?
That's right. I'm waiting for a pigeon to land with a note on its lake, so, all right, thank you.
I just wanted to say, Arden, and the team that I know it feels like we just talked about this and that I'm very impressed that you were able to get this together and that the team has this option available. I think it not only new users, but even those with a lot of meters, to report on. This is a huge benefit. And it's a benefit, to the water master to make sure that we get more compliance and reporting, but also just in terms of the staff time, and you already highlighted that and what it would take, and to there's potential too to ensure even more accuracy in the values that we get. I do also I had some concerns as Member Calandri mentioned as well, and that is just that, you know, what is there? It's great that it's optional. And I think just for clarity, for those that maybe want to give it a try, but are not ready or have some challenges, are we going to roll this out so that they can call in and get some support from staff? And I know that Arden, you mentioned there's a written manual that you're getting together and that there's going to be a bit of piloting initially. Can you maybe share more about what we could do to support those that aren't as tech savvy but wanting to try?
Yes, thank you. So we're planning to have a written manual, and we need to coordinate with Watermaster Admin to develop and streamline what an onboarding and support process might look like, in a way to help make sure that both they have the time, and we're dividing and conquering the best way to work with folks. It may be that next year when I'm in town for board meeting that we could have a little workshop or something like that. And I think being able to sit down and make sure that both for teaching people how to use it at first and answering questions as it's implemented, because I don't expect it to be 100% smooth for every single well owner immediately, that we're making sure that special attention is paid, so that it is as accessible as possible.
Thanks, Arden. I think that that's something all the directors would be interested in hearing more about, and a workshop might be really beneficial. But so thanks for that. We'd love to hear more. And then just really excited about this new program and the fact that you guys pulled this together so quickly. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Hernandez.
This is Audrey Miller from ABAC, sitting in for Rob Paris, Arden. I'm a very visual person, so maybe I can suggest that once we get the equipment going, we can have a YouTube video that might be accessible for how to use it as well. And the workshop is an excellent idea. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for all that information. Very exciting technology. And like technology for me, it's like, I don't know if I just do it off the YouTube. I definitely need hands-on with usually somebody assisting me.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do that, if you don't continually do it and you just wait a little while, then it's like, how did we do that again?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but I think it will be very good if we have different options to be able to help everybody get in the swing of things, especially if it saves time. Time is money, and we can always save a little bit of that. So thank you very much. So now we will go to our general counsel's report.
Thank you. Just a few brief updates. The board, earlier this year authorized the creation of an ad hoc committee, consisting of 2 directors from the Watermaster Board and 1 member of the advisory committee to work with Watermaster staff and generate a proposed form of storage agreement for carryover water, aging carryover water. That ad hoc committee has met several times, and Watermaster staff has worked with the ad hoc committee to draft a form of carryover storage agreement and an accompanying memo outlining the remaining issues that remain to be resolved. And at this point, the draft form storage agreement is at a point where it needs to be circulated to the public and the advisory committee and the board for comment. We're prepared to put that out there, hopefully today, if possible. Luckily, we have a relatively large gap between this meeting and the December 17th special meeting, which will give the public ample time to digest and consider what is being put out there and the remaining issues to be resolved, and hopefully provide input via the advisory committee and public comment at the December special meeting. So just so everyone is aware that that's coming. In addition, at the last board meeting, the directors requested Watermaster staff to work with the 50th District Ag Association and the City of Lancaster to resolve remaining issues related to that unique and unprecedented transfer. The engineer, general counsel, and the administrator have met with those parties and other interested parties to hopefully resolve those remaining issues and generate indemnities as well as proposed conditions for approval. And we are hopeful that those will be before you for consideration at the next board meeting as well. And just a few updates on the closed session items. The Zammersla appeal was heard by the Court of Appeals. Our associate, our colleague, Tim Metzinger, handled oral argument. It's under submission and we are waiting for a decision from the appellate court. The appeal of the ruling against Annette and Benny Moore has also been appealed, and that is working its way through the early stages of the Court of Appeal process, and Mr. Metzinger will be handling that as out on the status of that after closed session. That's all I have for you unless there are any questions.
Any questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we will go on to item number 16. That's board members' request for future agenda items. Okay. All right. And we will go to closed session, conference with legal counsel.
We have a 5-minute break.
And you may even have a 7-minute break. All right. So we can go in at 11:20. How does that sound? We need a motion for closed session?
Yes, please.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Everyone wants to get up and stretch. Okay, we're back in from closed session and we have a report out from our attorney.
Thank you, Vice Chair McLaren. Just one item to report out from closed session, and it relates to item 17C on the agenda. The Watermaster's litigation with Rancho Sierra Properties has been finally settled in a universal settlement agreement that included the City of Lancaster, in which the City of Lancaster has taken fee title ownership of the Rancho Sierra Properties golf course. And in exchange, the Watermaster has received payment of a total of $151,778.77 in partial satisfaction of the judgment entered against Rancho Sierra Properties. Those funds will be allocated first to attorney's fees and costs incurred in litigating with Rancho Sierra Properties, with the balance to be paid towards wastewater water assessments. And
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, we can adjourn our meeting to the next meeting, which will be December 17th. Thank you all. See you then.
Move to adjourn.